Hello, it's Greg Grizzled and Gaijin. We're back. We hope you're having a happy day wherever you're listening to this audio content from. As always, we'd like to thank you for your continued support of Greg Grizzled and Gaijin social media and writing efforts. Thank you. This is episode 057 of the Greg Grizzled and Gaijin, definitely not a podcast show. A light and fluffy look at social media, Japan, Japanese food, expat life, and life in general. As always, your retweets of this and all the wonderful content that we actively tweet and retweet out on Craig Hoffman 11 on Twitter is appreciated. Thank you in advance for helping us get the good word out about Greg Grizzled and Gaijin. Welcome back, another good show today by request from the Greg Grizzled and Gaijin mailbag, talking about traps and pitfalls to avoid when looking for foreign English teaching work. Full disclaimer, doesn't mean I have every answer for you. Every situation is different. Your employment decisions, whether you make them here in Japan or anywhere, are solely yours to make. But that being said, I've been here a while. I've had several jobs. I know people who have had several jobs, both good, okay, bad, and terrible. And so I say that with a fair amount of certainty. I can offer something for you, whether you're thinking about coming to Japan, whether you've been here for a bit and looking to upgrade your job, and probably even for a few of you Grey, Grizzled, and Gaijin folks like me, something to think about as you are pursuing foreign English teaching work. The first thing I'll tell you is read your contract. That seems simple, like everyone would do that, but they don't. I knew a foreigner here who signed a contract, came over quite excited, and was shocked when they did not get salary the 1st August. They went to the company figuring it must be some sort of mistake, and the company pulled out a copy of the contract both in English and Japanese, and it clearly had stated there is no salary paid in August, and they added for good measure, no salary paid in December. And that foreigner borrowed money from another foreigner to make it to the next month. Read the contract. That was also true. I knew another foreigner, actually a few foreigners sadly, who thought their company was paying properly into the health insurance, the pension, and their local taxes. And a year or two later, they found that that was not the case, and they were on the hook for big bucks. And that too was difficult for them to come up with. It is your responsibility to make sure that you are paying in to those programs. In the old days, I think there was this urban legend, and maybe it was even true, that the government didn't bother to collect from foreigners for that stuff. But I can tell you that I'm getting more and more direct messages, emails, and I'm seeing on social media the government is in fact coming after those people for money. And I write from time to time translations and editing letters from the local government to foreigners looking to get their money. Don't panic. In general, the government doesn't care beans about you. They care about getting the money from you. And it's been my experience, both on a personal level as well as in hearing the stories of other foreigners and anecdotes that they have offered to me, that the government is more than willing to work with you to set up a payment plan. But yeah, it's a shock when your company or you have been improperly paying into health insurance, pension, and the taxes. So be aware that you should make sure that from the beginning you are doing that the way it's supposed to be done. Visas too as well. Sometimes work wants you to have a visa and you come over on a visa and you've had some time left and a new company is eager to hire you, and they do. Perhaps it's even a higher salary, even part-time work. Your visa comes up for renewal and they are unwilling or unable to sponsor your visa. I knew foreigners that thought they fell into a pretty good gig with a better salary mid-year. They left their gig and they went to that one, and it worked for a while, and then the visa was coming up and they just thought the company would be more than willing to re-up them and extend them, and they weren't. And it left them really scrambling for work. Fewer and fewer companies these days are sponsoring English teacher visas. There's a lot of reasons for that. Among them, there's a lot of people with visas looking for work. So there's no real reason for a company to go through the hoops of setting you up with a visa if they don't have to. And that's just the way it goes, sadly. But Also, I will say that the visa process is not free, and foreigners have also been surprised when the company did not pay for their transportation to get that, as well as the cost of getting a new visa. So that's an out-of-pocket expense that many people are surprised that they did not get. Also, I'll say, look at the vacation time and the time off. Even if you are paid year-round, some jobs are really strict about how many days you get off. They combine vacation days and sick days, and it's really hard to take time off. And while it's technically illegal to tell you that you can't take time off, it doesn't mean that there's not a great amount of pressure from some companies to tell you, come to work, dude, or do that, as the case may be. And it may look like you've got copious amount of vacation, but sometimes they tell you when you can take that vacation. And so, for example, if you want to travel and you get a week to 10 days off at Obon here in August, that's great, but that's the most expensive travel time of the year. So you're going to pay top dollar to do whatever you want, even if it's going back home to visit your mom and dad. So it's something to think about. People think they're just going to slide out, go home during the cheap time, visit mom and dad, and the company's like, no, that's not going to happen. As well, some companies put extra events and overtime and extra responsibilities into the contract, and they hold your feet to the fire on that. I knew a girl that didn't really read the contract again. She thought overtime was kind of if I wanted to make a few extra bucks. And from the company standpoint, that overtime was mandatory, even though, again, that's technically illegal in Japan. The overtime classes were set as a standard part of the contract, and they kind of glossed over it by offering a bonus to cover the extra work plus a nominal fee. But she spent like 2 years in that company, really honked off that her great 8:30 to 4:30 job so that she could start her small online business after work blew up in her face, and she was left to work long hours, including Saturdays. Now, she left that job and got a job that matched what she wanted out of her life, but I can tell you she was miserable for 2 years, and that's the way it went. Commuting times, you might be near some of the work that you do, but not all. Especially the JET program and ALTs, they're going to multiple schools and covering multiple classrooms. And so I know people who have a 5-minute commute one day and a 2-hour commute the next day. If you're not one for packed trains, riding a bicycle, or walking a long way in the heat, rainy season, or really cold weather, you want to be aware of where your classes are. And of course, when you live in America, you have little to no knowledge of the local geography, so you don't know. I applied for a job years ago. It was a reasonable salary, actually a little bit higher. They offered things like pension and health insurance. I was pretty excited. I went in for the interview. They said, "Oh, Craig, yeah, we're great. We rarely get somebody with your kind of experience." I had been like a 5-year ALT at that point. I said, "Well, I'm excited too. It seems like a nice opportunity." And I happened to ask, "Oh, by the way, it's ALT work. Where are some of the classes?" They said, "Well," and the HR guy got really quiet. He said, "Well, some of them are a little far." And I said, "What's a little far mean?" And he threw out city names. And again, I had been here 5 years. I'm like, your definition of a little far and my definition of a little far is completely different. Now, he's a real foreigner, to his credit, who had only been at that job a week. The prior HR guy up and quit, which tells you about that company, to be sure. But I didn't take the job. And since I have been at my company for the last 7+ years, I've seen that job open, or heard that it's come open, no more, or no less rather, than 6 to 7 times. They keep nobody because those classes are spread out all over God's green earth. So it's something to think about. If it looks like a great job with more and more salary, or you've seen it coming open again on the job sites like Gaijinpot, there's probably a good reason. The good jobs here, people scoop up and they don't leave. I work for a good company, as I've said. People work for my company a long time in general. One of my coworkers has been there like 15 years. I've been there more than 7. Another coworker more than 5 or 6. Another coworker more than 5 or 6. We're all lifer foreigners, married, most of us with children. We are not going anywhere. And if that job ever came open, there would be hundreds of people applying for it, no doubt. That's the way it goes. So if you see a job that looks too good to be true, it probably is. Now, things happen. Sometimes people get sick or have family issues and they go home quick and you luck into a mid-year kind of job. But especially out of the peak hiring times, if there's a great job available and they're calling you and they want to see you immediately, you're either really lucky or you're jumping into something that's pretty terrible. The last part I'll talk about is who you are teaching. A lot of jobs, it's a lot of teaching hours. That gets old more than you might think. The other part is who you're teaching. 5 hours of 3, 4, and 5 years old students is very different than 3 or 4 hours of adults, or 3 or 4 hours of high-level high school students, or 1 hour of high-level TOEIC English exam preparation. So you want to know the energy that you're going to have to expend. If you're teaching in a junior high school with a Japanese English teacher, there's probably very little preparation and you're going to pop in, assist, and go home and go on with the rest of your day. If you're teaching more advanced stuff, it's going to require more preparation of you. And a lot of companies don't give you time to do that. I know a lot of people who work at home on their own time to make sure that their lessons and materials are ready for the classes that they teach. So if you think that you're going to pop in, teach, go home, and live your life, be sure that that's the kind of job you're signing up for. A lot of the private eikaiwas, especially evening work, weekend work, expect attendance and student evaluation forms, and they give you like 2 minutes to do that between the next set of students coming in. That's not really realistic. You are going to work at home to get that work done. And I know that that's not what a lot of people come here for. I was talking to another former ALT just this week. I said, yeah, some of my classes in the old days, I did like 30 seconds of work. I said, yeah, a lot of people like that. And I said, yeah, but other times I was doing the whole class in Japanese and English, and that got old too, while the Japanese English teacher was in the back grading notebooks, right? And so, if you're not looking to do a whole lot, you should probably try to find a job that doesn't expect a whole lot out of you. But I can tell you, if you want the better paying work in the better situations, especially in the private companies, they expect more and more work out of you. And that's not for everybody. You become far less foreign English teacher and much more salary man. And maybe you can do that for a year or two. And this last bit for the gray, grizzled, and gaijin people, year after year of heavy teaching schedules, little vacation, and no upward mobility in a company gets a little old for even the best people. So if you have responsibilities here, like a wife and family who depend on you, it behooves you to make sure you have a working situation that maybe isn't perfect, that's a little unrealistic, but one that you can physically, mentally, and, as I learned this year, emotionally handle day after day, week after week, and year after year. Otherwise, your life is not a very happy one, to be sure. All things that you should consider, whether you're new, mid-career, or here for the long haul. As always, that's it, and have a great day.